So again, thank you for letting me record this webinar and for keeping your questions confined to the chat box instead of just speaking up. I appreciate it. And let's get started. My name is Alan Katz. I am one of the co-founders of Take44, the company behind NextAgency. We're all about saving you time, money, and clients. And we do that by delivering to you a powerful agency management system with CRM and commission tools to help you organize your agency, make it more effective and efficient. Plus, we provide you with some very straightforward benefit management software you can give to your clients for free. And during the demo, we'll cover both of those. But before we get started, I want to provide some background and some context, including what we are and what we're not. What we are not is a PEO or a payroll company, a carrier or a GA, a quoting system or an enrollment system. We are a data management system. We move data around so it gets to the right place at the right time. That's sort of similar to what air traffic controllers do. They don't fly the planes, but they make sure the planes arrive where they're supposed to, and hopefully when they're supposed to. Well, we do the same thing. We don't use the data, but we move the data to where it needs to be. When we talk about NextAgency, we're talking about three components. One doesn't exist yet. NextMarket is or will be an Amazon.com kind of platform for you and your clients to find web designers, lawyers, background checking companies, payroll companies, basically products and services that you can use to grow your business. That'll be coming second half of this year. NextBroker is the heart and soul of our system, and what we do, it's all about you. That's the agency management system, and NextHR is what we call that benefit management system. Because we're constantly improving our platform, I think it's important for you to understand the principles that guide us as we develop new functions and features. The first is that it's all about you. We start with you, and everything is built out from there. That's not surprising. One of my co-founders, Trey Wild, is also a president of NAHU. I was as well. And you know, everyone in the company, our careers have been about helping brokers succeed. That means we don't interfere with your relationship. It's your relationship. So, for instance, if in NextMarket you don't want a background checking company to be seen by your clients for some reason, then you'll be able to turn it off. We empower choice. We don't think you should change the carriers and GAs you work with because you're using particular software. So we're flexible. We can work with whatever vendors you work with. We try to be realistic and not overpromise. So when I say our benefit management system is straightforward, I mean NextHR is straightforward. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles like, you know, in Excel, they have all those buttons and functions. I don't know what they do. Well, ours is a stripped down equivalent of Excel. It just has the buttons and functions you need, which we think makes it much more likely to be used by you and your clients, which is a good thing. It's also free, so it's worth more than every penny you don't pay for it. And we protect your data. We have encryption and all the stuff you would expect, but we also do it with permissions. So, for instance, if you want to be the only person in your agency who can see your commission data, you can set it up so that no one else but you has that permission. Because of our approach to the business, we are an affinity program partner with NAHU, which means if you're a member of NAHU, you save 20%. If you're not a member of NAHU, the discount saves you most, if not all, of the dues. So the vast majority of our users are NAHU members. And with that, I'm happy to get to the demonstration. Are there any questions first? I'm seeing one. The question is, who owns the data? And the answer is you do. And another question along those lines is, do we have long-term contracts? No, you can have a month-to-month arrangement with us, which means you can leave us, not that you would, but you could leave us at the end of any of your plan months, your license months. You can get an annual license from us, and that's good for a year. You pay it up front, and you get a discount of 2 months free. So what most of our agencies do is they start off on a month-to-month basis, make sure they're comfortable with us, make sure they're going to use us for the long term, and then they take advantage of that savings by converting to an annual license. Seeing no other questions. As you may recall, when you signed up for the webinar, we asked what you were looking for. These are the categories that it came down to. The most popular, and the ones I'll spend most of the time on, therefore, is how we help you organize your data and inform everyone on your team about what's going on, and how do you make sure that when you're making commitments, nothing falls through the cracks. So with that, let's get started with the demo. So this is your home base for NextBroker. This is Sherlock Holmes of Baker Street Insurance, his homepage. You can always get here by clicking the next X, and it shows all the cases that Sherlock has, unless he wants to see the policy view, in which it organizes it all by policies. You can see there's a lot of columns here. I'm going to go back to the case view. You can filter it. There's 36 filters you can use to get the view just the way you want it. And what's nice is as you filter, you see the results in the background here. It's grayed out, but I assume GoToMeeting lets you see that. So it's a great way of seeing if you're overdoing it on your filter and if you're seeing what you want to see. We support individual and group. If you just want to see your individual cases, you can do that. You can even define your relationship with the cases you have by defining sales statuses. So I can see everything I want to see, or if I just want to see leads, I can do that. During a demo, one of the brokers asked me how easy it was to do that, so I showed them. And this was a lead category he wanted. You can also create your own pipelines. He wanted good, bad, and ugly for his leads. So it takes a minute to do. And now he has a status and a pipeline for that. But I'm going to bring back in prospects and clients for purposes of this demo. Also on this home page, there's some tools that help you move around the system. This blue navigation bar, you'll eventually get used to the icons, but in the meantime, or if you just prefer, you can see the terms here and immediately get to where you want to go. You can lock this nav pane, and then we'll move all the data over. So this is now the new look of your system. Again, it's all customizing this the way you want it to work. In addition to this nav bar, and I'm going to shrink it so I can show you more on the screen, if you just start typing, you begin a search throughout the system. So these are all the cases, contacts, employees, etc. that have NOR in their name. But I can keep on going and narrow it down to Norwood. And here I am on the Norwood page. So any questions on the home page? Otherwise, I'll dive into this. Okay. I seem to have covered that question, so let's just move forward. This is the home page for Norwood Building. This is the summary tab or overview of Norwood. You can see there's a lot of information available here. Because it's a group prospect, it's going to have group kind of fields. If it was an individual, well, why don't I show you? If it's an individual prospect or client, it's not going to show NAIC codes or SIC codes. It's going to show date of birth and dependent information, things along those lines. But I'm going to go back to Norwood. Oops, Norwood. And what you can see here is, in addition to contact information and the rest, you have information about custom fields you may have assigned. So as I mentioned earlier, we believe that the software should adapt to you, not force you to adapt to the software. After all, you're already successful. So while we have 36 fields you can play around with, you may want 5 more. So here's some Sherlock created. He wants to track what Chamber of Commerce he knows someone, or he does a wellness site visit every year, so he wants to set that up, the next one he's going to do. And you can see that you can either leave it freeform, so you just type in whatever you want, or you can create your own drop-down menu. You can set it as a date. It's very flexible, easy, and intuitive to use. You can also pin key notes, which we'll get to in a moment, and see what workflows and checklists are assigned to this particular case. And again, we'll see those in a moment as well. But when you're talking about keeping your data organized and making sure everyone on your team is informed, you can see how the summary page provides a great deal of information in an easy-to-use way. You can also see what team members you've assigned to this group. You can make changes, take Greg off of it, and add someone to it, Irene Adler. So everyone knows who else is working on this case. So that's the summary page. Any questions on this? Yes, as I showed on the individual, it does display the dependents for individual cases. Groups don't have dependents until you get into employees. And I'll get to that tab in just a minute, and you'll see how we track the dependents of employees. So let's see some of the other information that's here. Contact information, and these are kind of smart contacts in that you can quickly see notes about a contact. So the gatekeeper loves chocolate. That's always good to know if you're working on a prospect. You can see what department they're in, etc. And you can add these as you like. And everyone on your team who's assigned to this case now knows who's who at the company. They can also see what benefits the company has. You can see both current and past coverage they've had. When you add a benefit, the system is smart enough to adapt to the kind of product they've purchased. What kind of coverage do they have? So if they're looking at medical, it's going to ask for, well, this is group, so it's going to ask for eligibility and minimum hours per week. It's also going to ask for metal level. It's going to assume HMOs, PPOs, MECs, etc. If you were to change this to Medicare, just to pick on that, you'll see the metal level goes away, but now we're asking for things like two-party discounts, dual eligibility, things along those lines. So for many of the coverage types or product types that you'd be looking at, we're going to be asking questions that are specific to that coverage type. You can also choose to share coverage with a client. What that means is it will show up in their NextHR portal. And I'll get to that in just a moment when we get to employees. But you don't have to share every benefit with your clients. And in answer to the question, no, you're not even obliged to give NextHR to your clients for you to get the value of NextBroker. Whether you give NextHR away or not, that's your decision. We're agnostic on it. And what I've been focusing on the first part of this demo is how we help you organize your data and inform people about it. These next two tabs are about how you make sure that commitments don't fall through the cracks. So any questions on that? So let's focus on keeping commitments, and that means notes and tasks and tickets, as we'll see in a little bit. Notes are simply things that people need to know. You had a phone call, they're having their 10th anniversary. Tasks are things people in your office need to do. And when creating a task or a note, one of the nice things is you can include it in a service report, which lists all the wonderful things you've accomplished for them, the problems you've solved, the questions you've answered, and it puts it in one report you can give to them semi-annually, quarterly, when you have a renewal, however you want to play with it. You can track tasks through a pipeline. You can create different kinds of tasks, create due dates for them, add notifications so you're reminded of the task. You can even assign an email template, so it'll have a standard email that you can edit to say it was great seeing you at the chamber last Tuesday if that's what happened, and then everything else in the email is done for you. Obviously descriptions and files. What I want to show here though is that these are tasks for Norwood, and once you have them in here you can filter them so you can see, all the tasks assigned to John Watson. So these are those. And it's a great way to stay organized because you can then sync them, export your tasks to your Outlook calendar or your Gmail calendar, which means not only will we remind you with a little icon on this globe, but we'll send you an email when your notification is due. But your desktop now knows about this task, so it's going to remind you. And it probably syncs with your phone, so your phone's going to remind you, which means you're only going to miss this commitment if you really want to miss this commitment. You can track things along, so here's John Watson's stuff. I can see that most of it is still being worked on, although here's one that's completed. So when I meet with John, I know what's going on. One of the most popular features we have is the timeline. This is a personalized to-do list. Now, what I had been showing you were just those tasks that were associated with Norwood. These are tasks that are associated with my entire block of business. And I have various views I can use. I can see all of them. I can see just today and going towards the future. But the most popular one, and the one we landed on, is today. So this becomes my to-do list for the day. And at the end of the day, I can look and see what I need to do tomorrow. So it's a great way for everyone on your team to have their own personalized to-do list. And you're seeing not only the tasks that you've assigned, but those that have been assigned to you. If I was logged on as Tobias, I would see the tasks I created plus those to which I've been assigned, which means your staff meetings become much more efficient. You can look up tasks for a particular week or day or month and say, where are we on these? What can I do to help you get them done? Now, I mentioned tickets previously, so let's see if I can find some. Lo and behold, I can. So tasks and notes are associated with a particular client, but sometimes you have tasks that aren't. You're going to have a sales team meeting. Someone needs to order collateral or tea because this is Sherlock, or pick up supplies or whatever. So you can create tasks. It's the exact same process as we saw before, except you're not associating it with a particular client. So that becomes what we call a ticket, and a great way to keep track of it. Those appear in your timeline unless you don't want them to, in which case you just unclick this and away they go. So again, it's all about making sure you keep your commitments. Two other tools that help you do that are workflows and checklists. Workflows are a series of tasks created based on a triggering event. So let me show you how that works. And to do that, let's go back to Norwood. and scroll down on the Summary tab to Assigned Workflows. I can either add a workflow here, or I can assign, or I can manage one. When you create a workflow, what you're doing is giving it a name, giving it a tooltip, and then you add a trigger. So this is going to say, before they turn 65, 1 month before, I want to reach out and talk to them. That's actually a little late. And then you create a task that does that and notifies you. You have your email template, etc. Let me show you what one of these looks like that I've already done. So let's see, Medicare prospecting. Let's view that one. So before their 65th birthday, 6 months beforehand, we're going to contact them. 5 months, 3 months, 1 month. All of these are creating tasks that appear at that selected date. Now that's what a workflow is. A checklist is very similar, but instead of being triggered by a date, renewal date, when you send a quote out, etc., it's a checklist. It's a series of steps that actually, let's view one. That'll be easier. So it's steps you take when something happens. So the first step in this one, when enrollment comes in, is someone's going to review for completeness. And I can see when I edit this that I've assigned that task to Barney Miller. So we know that's going to get done well. And it's created upon assigning this task, this checklist, to the case. The second task doesn't get created, however, until Barney indicates that he's completed that task. And when that happens, 2 other tasks are created. I'm going to send the case to I'm going to notify the service team so they can set it up, and I'm going to send it to accounting so they can do QuickBooks, and so on and so forth. So what you do is you create your list of procedures in what order they're in, and then when you assign them to a case, those tasks are triggered. And assigning it to a to a case is easy. You simply go to the Assign Checklist Tasks, look over the checklists, you can see the tooltip that you created, and assign it as needed. Any questions on that? Okay, great. So we're going to continue through the subtabs on Norwood. One of the powerful tools we provide is the ability to get employees into the system. You can add them one at a time, you can import them, or you can get them from your client. So we've been looking at NextBroker, and specifically the Norwood Building case record. Here is Norwood Building's implementation of NextHR. So this is the summary page. This is what they land on in the morning when they open up. You can see we put your information right in front of them so they know who gave them this free software. This is a portal. This view is for the employer, but if he's also an employee, he'd get to switch around to the employee portal without having to log out and log back in again. So we make it extremely easy to use. And one of the functions is tracking employees. They can put together kits for onboarding a new employee, track how, in this case, Agnes Doe is doing. She's only done one of the required tasks, and none of these others. So Agnes is not doing well in coming on board. And I, as the HR director or as the employer, know that, so I can follow up with her. But what I, as the employer, can also do is send this data to my broker, Sherlock, by clicking this very explicitly named Send Employee Data to Broker. And when I do that, I get a list of employees. Now, initially, these would be unchecked. But once they've used the system and shared some information, we preserve that. The reason they're unchecked is we want the employer to opt in with what information they share with you and about whom. The reason is if there's a breach at your office, the FBI will send out two teams. One is to find the bad guys who stole the data. The other is to find out why you had the data. So this is our way of making sure you can say, because the employer chose to share it with me. So to do a medical census, which I'm about to show you, you don't need banking information. So they don't have to include that and shouldn't. Once this is all set, as you can see, we're into very explicit buttons and links. You click on Share with Broker, and the employer data has been successfully sent. So now I go back to NextBroker. I'm on the employee list, and I can see all the employees. So this allows me now to create a census if I want, and we make that very simple. You know how challenging it can be to find, to create a census that includes the birthday of the third child of the fifth employee in a 15-person group. Here's how easy it is with us. If your client is using NextHR, they've sent you the census. You go to the Actions button, say Copy to Census. You can create whatever census you want. Click OK. And now we have the census. I can edit it. You'll notice coverages aren't indicated, so I can select everyone. And I can set coverage. I'll make them all active. I could have done any of these others, but I'll do active. And if I want to show that Betty and Bill are on Cobra, I can do the same thing, except I choose Cobra. None of these folks have spouses, but if they did, it would show the appropriate code here, etc. If it wasn't showing the appropriate code, I could change it, things along those lines. So all the dependent data, etc. is here. You click Export, and it creates a very nice census for you. You can attach to an email and send to your GAs or carriers. You can upload it into your quoting system. You can use our system, which I can show you after the formal demonstration, on sending it to your GAs and carriers, and it's already attached. We make it easy to attach the prior bill. So you're all set, and you have this census. And you can track more than just medical. You can create different censuses for long-term disability or dental or vision, and send them, mix and match when you send them. Send some to one carrier, send those and others to another one. So any questions on censuses? No, we don't link with any quoting systems directly. That's something we're looking at doing. Obviously, they have to be willing to accept it from us, and something called APIs need to be created. But that's something we're going to explore during 2019. Any other questions? Okay, one of the other topics that many of you had was how do you manage your files and folders. With NextAgency, it's really easy. We have this library. So here is the agency library for Baker Street. And what's nice about this is that because we're in the cloud, all your documents are accessible whether you're at the office or at home. When I was a real person, I used to leave the file at home when I was at the office, and if I was working from home, I had invariably left it at the office. That wouldn't happen if NextBroker had existed back then. So these are folders that I've created. System folders are folders that we create. So for instance, in here, we have folders. Every time you add a file to a task for a case, first we have case records. I can very quickly do a search, and I can see the Norwood Building folder. This is what I have for this particular case, and again in tools that we create, I can see the tasks that all the tasks, and if they have folders, I can open them up and see them. So that's done for you automatically, but you can add articles and the like extremely easy. If you're used to programs like Dropbox, Box, all those things, you click on Add a File. In this case, we're going to load from the desktop. I can either drag it over, or I can browse to it. I upload it, and there it is, whatever I just added. I think it was a commission statement. So it's now in the system in the wellness articles. And anyone who has access to this can see it. Now I can choose to share or to not share a folder with other users. So right now, self-funded infographics are not being shared. I click on this, and now everyone in the agency will be able to see it. But if I want to keep a folder private, I can just by clicking on Unshare. And then I'm the only one who will be able to see that. Now, I showed you the files that are related to Norwood. We don't make you go into the library just to see a case's records. If you're talking to the client and you're looking at their contacts and what benefits, and you know that there are files you need to look at, you can go to the Files tab, and this is the exact same list of folders and files that you saw in the agency library. It's just a separate window into the same room. You've got all that data there automatically. Any questions on libraries, files, folders? Oh, I see a couple here. As far as I know, you can upload any file type, Excel, Word, videos, etc., audio. And no, there's no storage limit. I suppose if an agency got carried away, we'd have a conversation with them, but no one's ever gotten close to that kind of abuse, so we're fine. So many of you had indicated you wanted to see how we handle reports, so you can analyze your business. These are our reports. You'll notice that this blue nav pane is on every page, so reports are just a couple clicks away. You can save reports, and that means you don't have to recreate what fields and filters you want to use, but you can use filters and define what it is you want to see and what effective dates they have, whether it's just group or individual, blah, blah, blah. And you can define what fields you're going to look at, and then you can order those columns. So right now we have name here, but if I wanted to start with renewal date, I literally just drag this up to where I want it and let it go. And there you have it. So if the next field I want is carrier, I grab it, I move it up, or I could move it down, but I think carrier is pretty important, so I'm going to put it there, and then email address can come down here. You get the idea. We make it really easy to customize your reports, very intuitive, and then you can save them as a template and then run them, and they come out in Excel. Then you can do whatever you want with them there. And as I mentioned, we have a host of categories for your reports, including commissions. And that's the final thing we'll cover in this formal part of our presentation, other than how to contact us. And then if you want to stick around, I'll stop recording and I'll answer whatever questions you have. I can show you Next Mail, which allows you to sync your emails in your Gmail or Outlook account with NextBroker, and it automatically have them routed, many of your emails routed to the appropriate case. And I can dive deeper into commissions. But what I want to show with commissions, let's see, I need to find a client. Haven't figured out a way to get paid by a prospect yet, but if anyone figures that out. So here's London Bakery. I go to the commission tab, and here's all the carriers that I've received a commission statement from for London Bakery. There's three components of of commissions in our system. One is simply viewing them, like I'm doing now. The other is reporting on them, which I'll show you in a sec. And then the third is uploading them. We have a very simple, elegant way of doing that, and I'll spend a minute highlighting that, and then if you want during questions, I can spend more time on it. But this is just a view. Nothing very exciting about it, except you get to see what you've been paid on by these folks. You can track overrides and bonuses separately. You can split commissions and manage those splits. When you do splits, you can do percentages or per, PEPM, flat amounts. Choose what coverage type you want to track, how much you want to pay. So let's say on a percentage basis, we're going to give 50%. You can share commissions with both internal and external agents. We won't let you share more than 100% of it. The way it works is the agency gets 100%, and if you want to assign, or in this case Sherlock gets 100%, and if you give part of it to others, that leaves whatever is left for Sherlock. You don't have to share everything that comes in on a case, so if you're just sharing commissions, and you can have a start and end date. So in this case with Sam Spade, he's getting 50% for a period of time, but after that it's going to drop to 25% or to 0 or what have you. Now we're not paying the commissions, we're tracking those commissions and helping you keep on top of them, but we're not an accounting software. We're not going to generate a check for you. But what we will do is, going to reports, we'll generate reports for you, including sub-agent reports, which allows you to create sub-agent commission statements. My favorite report is not the commissions report that shows all the commissions you got. It's the unpaid commission report. And these shows you the commissions you did not get. And by default, we show you cases on which you were not paid the prior month. And, you can run this report and it'll show you all the cases you're eligible for, active cases, but no commissions were received. And that means these are about to lapse. So this is last month in December of 2018, around the 20th, 25th of the month of January. I want to run this report so I can track down why these people haven't paid yet. Is it an oversight? Are they lapsing? Was it a mistake? Because it's a lot easier to save a case during their grace period than it is to reinstate a case afterwards. So again, all sorts of reports. I'm going through these quickly. I can show you the reports later. But what I want to get to is how quickly and easy it is to upload a commission statement. So I'm going to go to carriers. This is a list of all my carriers. I'm going to pick on Blue Shield, and I'm going to upload commissions. First off, another view. These are all the commission statements I've received from Blue Shield. I can either manually import information. We all have carriers we used to sell, but we don't anymore. We have 2 or 3 cases. Sometimes it's easier just to type that information in, but and you can add rows as needed. Or you can import a statement, and that's what I'm going to show here. The first step is you need to indicate when the commission statement arrived. We don't know that. The reason you want to track this information is so you get a feel after 2, 3, 5 months of when to expect the commission from Blue Shield. So if they always come in before the 10th and it's now the 19th, you may want to give a call and see what happened to it. You can upload a template and then fill it in manually, but most carriers will give you a commission statement in a spreadsheet, or you can download it from their site yourself. So that's what I'm going to do here, And as soon as I do, it gives me the mapping. So these are the headers, the column headers on the spreadsheet I just uploaded. Here's what we're looking for, the data we're looking for. The first time you do this, you need to make sure the mapping is correct, and then it'll automatically map it the way you did before. So you don't have to do any work here. Unless the commission statement is changed by the carrier, you're done. And there might be fields on the commission statement you're not tracking, in which case you just tell us to ignore it. You can also tell us, since we want to prevent duplicates, what fields to use for doing that. Click validate, and here's the commissions. Now you'll notice that none of these are acceptable because they're duplicates. So we stop you from making mistakes. If this was for a different amount, let's say it was a catch-up payment, so it was only $200, then it would be verified, and if I were to click upload commissions, well, first I would tell it to ignore these duplicates, and then it would just upload this one commission payment, and it would then flow through the system. You would see it in the case record, you'd see it in the sub-agent record, and you could run reports on it. So any questions on any of this? And as I said, if you want to hang on, I'm sensitive to the time you've given us, and I really appreciate your time. I want to make sure we respect that, so I'm going to move on and stick around, and we'll answer whatever questions you have remaining. Meanwhile, for the BAFO finish, I just want to explain how you get in touch with us and how you can learn more about NextAgency. You can sign up, you can explore videos and the like at nextagency.com. We're adding new videos all the time. So this is your home base for us. If you want to sign up, you click on the blue sign up button and off you'll go. And if you have any questions, feel free to send it to sales@nextagency.com. I get copied on this, but so do several other folks, so that we can get back to you as quickly as possible. And I hope that we hear from you soon, because we'd really like to help you and your agency save time, money, and clients. So thank you for your time. And I'll stick around and answer questions as soon as I stop recording here. Thanks.